Hi everyone, welcome to this video today with Cisco Packet Tracer. Today I want to show how to do a more advanced form of network address translation using tree routers. So to do that, I'm going to click here on PT router and I'm going to change the name to router 1. And what I want to do next, I want to click on the router, I want to power it off, I want to remove this serial port here, and I want to put in an Ethernet port there. So now I click on. So what I want to do next is I want to put in a 2960 switch, and then I want to put in a server, and now I want to connect these together. And what I want to do now is I want to put in labels here for the IP addresses. So the IP address for this will be 192.168.0.2, and the IP address here will be 192.168.0.1. And now I want to configure the IP address here on the server. And the IP address will be 192.168.0.2, subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, and the default gateway of 192.168.0.1. And I want to configure the router as well. Click here, config fast Ethernet 00. I'll put in the default gateway of 192.168.0.1, and that's on. Next, I want to put in another router. I'll put in another 2960 switch. And I want to put in a server and 2 laptops. Okay, now I want to set the labels for the IP addresses. So I just have to look here at my notebook. So the IP address here will be 192.168.2.2, and the IP address here will be 192.168.2.1. Okay, so now I want to configure the router here, and we'll go fast Ethernet 00, and the IP address will be 192.168.2.1, subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, and on. And now I want to configure the IP address on the server, and that will have the IP address of 192.168.2.2, subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, and the default gateway of 192.168.2.1. And now I want to go next to DHCP, and the IP address here will be 192.168.2.1 because it's the default gateway, and the start IP address will be 192.168.2.3. And then we click on add and save. Now I want to click here on the laptops and domain and get an IP address from the server. Click here on DHCP, and you can see it successfully got an IP address. And what I want to do next, I want to connect the two routers together. So to do that, we'll click use a crossover cable. So I'm going to click here on Fast Ethernet 01, and this will go to Fast Ethernet 01. And now I want to set the labels for my IP addresses. So the IP address here will be 192.168.3.1, and this IP address here will be 192.168.3.2. Now I want to configure the routers here, so go click here Fast Ethernet 01/0. So you type in the IP address of 192.168.3.1 and the subnet mask of 255.255.255.0 and on. And we'll do the same with this one. And that's on. So the next thing I need to do now is I need to configure this static routing table. So we'll start with router 2. Click here on static, and I'm going to put in the IP addresses here. So I'm going to put in the IP address of 192.168.0.0 and subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. And the next hop will be the IP address here, which will be 192.168.3.1, and you click here on add. So now I need to configure this router here, static route. So we'll put in the IP address of 192.168.2/0, and the subnet mask is 255.255.0, and the next hop will be 192.168.3.2, and we click here on add. So what I want to do, I'm going to click on laptop 1, and I'm going to see if I can ping the port 192.168.3.1. And you can see we received a reply, and we'll see if we can ping the server. So go ping and type 192.168.0.2. And you can see we got a reply from the server. So let's see if we can access the Cisco web page on the server from the laptop here. So click here on web browser, and I'll type the IP address of 192.168.0.2, and you can see I successfully accessed the web page on the server here. So what I want to do now that I've successfully got this side of the network done, I want to put in another router, switch, server and 2 laptops. So we'll click here and we'll click on PT router. So that's router 3, and I want to put in another 2960 switch, and I want to add a server and 2 laptops. Just move the laptops here, and now I want to connect these together. So put that here to Fast Ethernet 10, And now we'll connect the two routers together. It's fast Ethernet 00 to fast Ethernet 20. So what I want to do now is I want to set the labels here for the IP addresses. So click on the label here and we'll put in the IP address of 192.168.4.2. And the IP address here will be 192.168.4.1. And the IP address here will be 192.168.5.4. And this IP address will be 192.168.5.3. So I'm going to click on this here so I know what port to put this IP address in. I'll click here on the router, click on config and click here fast Ethernet 01/0. So we'll type in the IP address of 192.168.4.1 and the subnet mask of 255.255.255.0 and click on. Now I want to configure the IP address here on the server. So click here on desktop IP configuration, put in the IP address of 192.168.4.2 and the default gateway will be 192.168.4.1. and I want to go here to services, DHCP. I want to put in the default gateway of 192.168.4.1 and the start IP address will be 192.168.4.3. Click on and click save. Now click here on the laptops, make sure they get an IP address, click here on DHCP, it's done, and do the same with this one. And it's received an IP address, and now I want to press here. So now I want to configure the IP address here. So I click here fast Ethernet 00 and I'll put in the IP address of 192.168.5.4 and the subnet mask of 255.255.0 and click on. And we'll do the same here for this one. And we'll put in the IP address of 192.168.5.3 and to click on. So the next thing I need to do now is I need to configure the static routing table for this router, and then we'll do the same for this one. So click here on the router, click on static, and I'll put in the IP address of 192.168.0.0 and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0 and the next hop will be 192.168.5.3. and click here on add, and we'll do the same for this router here. Click here on static and we're going to put in the IP address of 192.168.4.0. Subnet mask will be 255.255.255.0 and the next hop will be the IP address of 192.168.5.4. Click here on add and done. So now I want to see if I can ping the port 192.168.5.3 from laptop 2. So I type ping, P-I-N-G, and put in the IP address of 192.168.5.3. and you can see we received a reply. So now we'll see if we can ping the server. So I'll type in ping again. I'll type 192.168.0.2, and you can see we've successfully received a reply from the server. So from laptop 2 here, we'll see if we can access the Cisco web page. So we'll just type in 192.168.0.2, and you can see I successfully was able to access the web page on server 192.168 from laptop 2. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider giving me a thumbs up and like, share and subscribe. Thank you.